I want to continue keeping up with the people that Donald Trump chose to pardon. His quick and terrible decision at the beginning of his presidency to relieve of legal accountability, the full legal accountability, the January 6th rioters, because you can break the law if it's for him in his America, of course. Now, this story is a tragedy, but because I've been updating you, I'm going to continue to. Here you have the latest example of someone being sentenced for something separate now that they're pardoned. Newsweek reporting woman given January 6th pardon is sentenced for death by drunk driving. A woman pardoned less than 2 weeks ago by President Trump has been sentenced to 10 years in prison after pleading guilty to killing a person while drunk driving. Emily Hernandez was driving at double the legal alcohol limit on the wrong side of a Missouri highway in 2022 when she struck and killed another driver and injured the driver's husband, who was also in the car. Following her federal pardon for her role in the Capitol riots, where she stole a sign from Nancy Pelosi's office, she was taken back to court in Franklin County, Missouri for her pending drunk driving charges and sent back to prison. And so the tragedies of the law and the lives of people, it's not just her post-pardon. We already talked about these, but Matthew Huddle, who assaulted law enforcement on January 6th, was killed by a police officer during a traffic stop that went wrong. Andrew Take, who attacked police with bear spray and a whip on January 6th, is on the run from police right now as we speak and is wanted for a child sex charge, which was filed against him in Texas in 2016. And then Daniel Ball, who allegedly threw an explosive at the police during the riot. This is the riot that they tell us was peaceful, remember, was rearrested on federal gun charges from 2023. And going back to the woman at issue here, a GoFundMe set up by Victoria Wilson's sister at the time said she had a 10 and 15-year-old son. The person that was killed by Emily Hernandez while she was drunk driving. I know this is not necessarily something that needs to be said, but hopefully all of you already understand this, but please don't misunderstand the importance of not drunk driving. I just want to make sure that that is acknowledged separate from the individual instance here. And as we continue to talk about the January 6th rioters, I am still not over some of the defenses we've seen from Republicans of this decision by Donald Trump. Remember that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, had one of the most absurd explanations when asked that I've ever seen.
Republicans have long said you guys back the blue. How do you justifiably say that when Trump just pardoned a bunch of violent January 6th rioters who attacked Capitol Police? And if those rioters come to the Capitol, will you welcome them back here?
So look, everybody can describe this however they want. The president has the pardon and commutation authority. It's his decision. And I think what was made clear all along is that peaceful protests and people who engage in that should never be punished. There was a weaponization of the Justice Department. There was a weaponization of the events. The following, the prosecutions that happened after January 6th.
Did you hear there was a certain level of excitement in his voice when he came across the word weaponization? He was like, I just think that there was a weaponization. Oh, that's what I'm supposed to say. There was a weaponization of the events of that day, which means that technically I'm not saying that the people who beat cops shouldn't be held accountable, but because of a weaponization, that means that maybe they shouldn't. Oh, Mike.
It was a terrible time and a terrible chapter in America's history. The president's made his decision. I don't second guess those. And yes, it's kind of my ethos, my worldview. We believe in redemption. We believe in second chances. If you would argue that those people didn't pay a heavy penalty, having been incarcerated and all of that's up to you. But the president's made a decision. We move forward. There are better days ahead of us. That's
the inconsistency. That's my point. I know we've looked at it before, but I don't get how you can be that hypocritical. Because the president has pardon power, true, that means you shouldn't second guess it. But you second guessed Biden as you can whenever he made certain pardon decisions. No, but I don't second guess because Trump is my daddy king. And then he says, listen, my ethos, it's all about redemption. But you don't make that argument when it pertains to any other criminals. You don't, if Biden, oh my gosh. Okay, everyone imagine this for a second, please. I know we've talked so much about this issue, but we can't let the chaos cause us to move past black and white issues like this that prove what we're up against. But can you imagine if Joe Biden pardoned just a bunch of people who assaulted police officers? Really think about it. And he said, listen, I'm not saying it's okay, but I think they've served long enough. And despite the sentence, through our due process, deciding that they should do longer, I'm thinking they've done enough and they're good people and I believe in redemption. What do you think the Foxies, we would hear so much coverage of it. It would not stop. And that would be a bad decision if Biden just randomly went, all these people, there's no reason to believe they're wrongly convicted. We have their assaults on video. They haven't yet served their full sentence, but I don't know. That would be bad. But it is worse to say, not only am I pardoning someone who attacked a police officer, but I'm also pardoning someone who did so in the interest of preventing a lawful election. That's an aggravating factor. And that's what Trump did. And no amount of whatever you just saw there from Mike Johnson will change that, or what we also talked about with Marjorie Greene.
Hey guys, hi. Come to the Capitol or do any tours or any meetings here?
Is this all you really talking about is the J6ers that have been pardoned?
Yeah.
Okay, are you gonna talk about the Biden family that got pardoned? No?
I haven't.
Oh, okay, what about the rapers and killers and murderers that Joe Biden pardoned? There's tons of them.
No, we fact checked this before, but I find it interesting how many people just believe whatever. So let's go over it again. Biden didn't pardon the list of people that she said in terms of the rapers and the murderers. He commuted the sentence of people so they had to spend their whole life in prison instead of the death penalty, because we're fundamentally against the death penalty, regardless of what you did, for three primary reasons. Number one, it's estimated that 4% of folks are wrongly convicted, so we would then be killing people. And if later on we realize, oh, that was an incorrect conviction, you can't do anything, you can't get justice for that person. That's number one. Number two is that it's more expensive to implement the death penalty than it is to just hold people in prison for the rest of life. And number three, I do believe it is more of a punishment to spend your entire life on earth, or the rest of it, being punished than the easy way out of just it ending. So he didn't pardon let out in the streets murderers.
Is that a focus at all?
Well, I'm asking about J6.
I know that's what you're asking. I know that's what you're asking about, and I'm not doing this. This insane place up here and all of y'all's obsession with January 6th is absurd. Everybody outside of here is sick and fucking tired of it. I'm serious. And so Joe Biden pardons all these murderers and rapists and disgusting people, and then everybody up here has got their panties in a wad because J6ers got pardoned. Like people that walk through open doors, a lot of them.
Yeah, and then on to that. So she's just lying. She doesn't understand the distinction. She doesn't understand the law. She doesn't understand what pardon means. She doesn't understand what commute means. She doesn't understand what fundamental opposition to the death penalty is premised on. She doesn't understand anything. And she doesn't understand that it's Trump's obsession with January 6th that caused this. If he'd move on from it, if Mike Johnson were right and it really was just a bad day in our past, he wouldn't go back and try to avoid legal accountability for those people. So it's his obsession. And also, yes, I'm obsessed. Just like how you should be obsessed when the president tries to end our democratic process. Share your thoughts in the comments. Support the show. Get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.